In the previous lecture we saw the formulations for the fixed charge problem, where we looked at locating certain facilities and allocating the capacity of those facilities to meet the requirement at some demand points. We saw two versions of the problem. One version is where a demand point can receive from two facilities, the other version where every demand point is met from only one facility. So, we will take a numerical example to show how this fixed charge problem works. Now, let us consider three locations and the fixed cost to locate in these would be so the three facilities, the fixed cost could be taken as 5 million, 4 million and 4.5 million. Now, the capacities in these three facilities could be taken as so they are taken as 1,800,000 and 1.25 million are taken as the capacities. Now, we will assume that there are 8 demand points, and the demand in 8 are 200,000 for 1 to 4 and 250,000 for 5 to 8. We will also assume that there is a unit transportation cost from the 3 proposed sites to the 8 demand points, and these are given as 4, 5, 5, 4, 4, 4.2, so these are the unit costs of transportation. So, if we use the formulation that we saw in the previous lecture, so the formulation will have an objective function of the type minimize sigma fi yi plus Cij xij. So, the Fi yi will be 5 million into y1 plus 4 million into y2 plus 4.5 million into y3. The Cij xij will be 4 into x11 plus 5 into x12 up to 5 into x18 and so on. We also have the constraints, we have 3 constraints for the capacity of these 3 that come in. There will be 8 constraints of the demand. So, there will be 3 constraints for the capacity. The capacity constraint would be like this: summed over xij, j is less than or equal to Ci yi. So, if facility I is chosen, then there is a capacity Ci and things can be transported from I. So, this will be the capacity constraint. This will be the demand constraint. For every j summed over I, will be greater than or equal to Dj, which is the demand for that item. So, we can actually solve this problem optimally, and I will give the optimum solution to it. So, the optimum solution would be y2 equal to y3 equal to 1 with x22, x23, x31, 34 is equal to 200,000, x28, x36, x37 is equal to 250,000, x25 equal to 150,000, x15 equal to 100,000. So, if we look at this solution, the optimum solution has picked y2 and y3. So, it has picked this as well as this. So, there is a cost of 9.4 plus 4.5, 8.5 million will be the fixed cost, and the allocations are, now these two are chosen. So, this and this are chosen. So, the capacities are 800 plus 1250. So, 2050000. So, available capacity equal to 20500. The requirement is 200,000 into 4, which is 800,000, plus 250,000 into 4, which is 1 million. So, the requirement will be 180. So, total requirement is 1.8 million, whereas the total capacity is 2050000. So, we have enough capacity to meet the demands of these 8 places, and let us see how the capacity is allocated to the various demands. So, we have x22 equal to 200,000. So, this will give 200, I am just writing 200, but it is 200,000. x23 is 200, so there is another 200 here. x31 is 200, so x31 is 200, x34 is 200, x28 is 250, x36 is 250, and x37 is 250, 25 is 150, and x35 should be 100,000. So, this should not be 15, this is x35. x35 should be 100,000. 15 would not come here because facility 1 is not chosen, only 2 and 3 are chosen. So, the transportation can happen only from facilities 2 and 3. Now, we realize that if we see this capacity is 800,000, this capacity is 1250000. Now, we realize that this 800 capacity is utilized like this, 200, 200, remember these are in thousands. So, 200 plus 200, 400, 550 plus 250 is 800, 800,000 is utilized. Here it is 200, 200, 400 plus 100, 500, 500 plus 1000 is 1000, 500 plus 500 is 1000. So, there is a excess capacity that is left here. So, the demand for all those is also met by this solution. So, the cost corresponding to this solution has two components. One is the fixed cost component, the other is the variable cost component. The fixed cost component is the sum of these two, which is 8.5 million. The variable cost component will be the multiplication of these, and the final value when we find out is total cost at the optimum is equal to 1551,5000 comes as the optimum cost of the of this. Now, this is the solution that we get if we formulate this problem as an integer programming problem and solve. Now, sometimes heuristic solutions are also sought for this problem, where the heuristic solution can be of two types. One is to try and find out in terms of cost, that is to try and locally optimize this portion, which is the total fixed cost that is required, which means to choose facilities that have lower fixed cost that together can meet the total demand. So, which would give us these two facilities, and once these two facilities are chosen, this one is not chosen, take only these two and solve a transportation problem with the capacity of these facilities as the supplies and the demands taken there, and we would get a solution to that. Another way of solving it is to try and solve a transportation problem first, looking at all of these, and then we will try and get some facilities being used, some facilities not being used. We may in this case get a solution where if we solve it as a transportation problem first, we may still have some allocations from here, here and here, which means if we solve the transportation problem optimally, it might ask us to send something from this, to send something from this, and to send something from this. It may happen. In this particular example, it may not happen because these two put together have enough capacity to meet, and all the costs here are greater than or equal to the cost except this one. So, it may still not happen, but then if we have different types of data and if we solve a transportation problem, it might give some allocations here, some allocations from here and some allocations from here. But then it will be costly to create all the three in all the three places, because there is going to be both excess capacity and very high cost. Then from the transportation solution, we can do some local optimization to try and reduce this cost further. But for smaller sized problems such as this, which involves only 3 potential locations and 8 demand points, it is always easy to solve this problem optimally using any solver and try to get the best solution to the problem. Now, the second variation of this is the case where a demand is met entirely by one facility and not by more than one facility. If we see this particular example, the demand of this is met only from here, only from here, only from here, only from here. 5 is met both from 2 and 3. Otherwise 6, 7, 8, 7 out of the 8 demands, the demand points, the demands are met from supply from only one facility and not from 2, except demand point 5, which gets 150 from location 2 and 100 from location 3. So, if we put an additional restriction that the entire demand is to be met only from one supply, we have seen the formulation for that. We have said Cij, Dj, Xij, Xij equal to 1 if facility I meets the requirement of demand point j. And we also said in this case that this should be Dj Xij should be less than or equal to Ciyi and Xij should be equal to 1. So, it comes only from one facility. We have already seen this formulation in the previous lecture. We will now show only the solution to it. So, in this case what will happen is, since there is additional capacity, this entire demand will be met from here. So, the solution would now become, the only change in the solution would be that x 35 will be equal to 1 and the entire demand of 5 will be met only from this. So, there will be, so this will have enough capacity to meet, this 800,000 will be spent as 200 plus 200 plus 250, about 150 will not be used here, this entire 150 will move here to get 200, 200, 250, 250 and 250, it would still be within the 1250000. So, the solution there will be still x 35 equal to 1, which means all the demand of 5 will be entirely met from supply 3. Because when we consider dedicated facilities, when we consider dedicated facilities, entire demand is met from one supply, Xij will be equal to 1 if supply I meets the entire demand for j. So, the solution would be x 31 equal to 1, x 22 equal to 1, x 23 equal to 1, x 34 equal to 1, x 35 equal to 1, x 36 equal to 1, x 37 equal to 1 and x 28 equal to 1. So, there will be an additional cost and that additional cost will be this 150,000 into 0.4 will be the additional cost that we will incur if we solve this problem with dedicated facilities. So, this is a numerical example which kind of tells us how the fixed charge problem works. There is a location component, there is an allocation component to the fixed charge problem. There are still a couple of interesting issues in solving the fixed charge problem. One is what this Fi represents the fixed cost of setting up the facility, whereas Cij Xij represents the cost of transporting items from the chosen facilities to the demand points. Now, there is also a Dj which comes here, Dj is the demand during period j. Now, what is the period that we are talking about? Now, this is like a one time cost of allocating or locating a facility, whereas this is incurred every time there is transportation. So, the best way to define Fi and Cij is like this. Fi should be defined as some kind of a equivalent cost per year in locating it. For example, if this facility has a realistic lifespan or a period of use of say 10 years, and whatever is the total Fi should be brought down to equivalent 1 year. Now, Dj should represent the demand at point j for 1 year and Cij is the unit cost of transportation. So, that both these actually represent cost corresponding to a certain time period and corresponding to the same time period. So, if dj is demand per month in point j, then Fi should adequately represent the equivalent monthly cost if we were to locate this facility in this place I. So, one should not say that Fi is a cost that is incurred over a 5-year life of the plant, whereas dj is a monthly demand. The other assumption, of course, what we make is there is a single item, or dj represents the demand of an equivalent single item. Another assumption that we make is that this dj is not going to change with time. So, dj represents the demand at point j of an equivalent item for the equivalent period. So, both Fi and dj, particularly these two parameters, one is a cost parameter for location and the other is a demand parameter. One has to make sure that they are factored suitably to represent the period for which this cost is computed. So, it is customary to compute it as an annual cost. So, Fi is often taken as the equivalent amount per year and dj is taken as the demand of an equivalent product for 1 year. So, that we are consistent with the notation and the use of the algorithms to solve this problem. Now, we can actually expand this fixed charge problem in the context of a supply chain to consider intermediate facilities also. So, when we looked at the basic fixed charge problem, we said there are plants or production facilities and there are demand points or distribution points. Now, we can expand this to consider intermediate facilities. So, there could be factories here, there could be warehouses here or distribution centers, and then there would be retailer or customer. Or customer. So, we could have multiple locations for these factories. Now, there could be different possible locations for the distribution centers, and then there could be several customers which are here. Now, as far as this so, we could say that there is a fixed cost Fi of locating a factory here, there could be a fixed cost of Gj of locating a warehouse in this place. So, then we would, and there will be a capacity of Ci here and there could be a capacity of some Rj here and there will be a demand of Dk from customer k. So, now the decision variables will become Xij are the quantities transported between the factories and the distribution centers, and Yjk are the quantities that are transported between the distribution centers and the retailers. So, there is a certain fixed cost of locating the facilities and there is the variable transportation cost. So, the problem will be to minimize Fi Yi. Now, let us not call it Yi, let us call it as X, Y, Zi. So, Zi equal to 1 if we locate a factory in place I, plus Gj say Rj, where Rj equal to 1 if we locate a warehouse in place j, plus Cij Xij, one more summation. Cij is the unit cost of transportation between I and j, and Xij is the quantity transported, plus Cjk Yjk, where Cjk is the unit cost of transportation from this to this, and so on. So, this will be the objective function that has the location cost as well as the transportation cost. Now, the first thing that we require is this. So, what goes out? So, sigma Xij from a particular I summed over all j. So, from this whatever goes into this, there is a second summation also here because two facilities are involved. So, whatever goes out of this should be less than or equal to its capacity Ci. So, sigma Xij summed over all j should be less than or equal to Ci into Zi. Zi comes in only when the facility is chosen, I can move something out of it. So, whatever that goes out is less than or equal to Ci Zi. Now, as far as these warehouses are concerned, whatever it receives should also be, first two things will have to happen. It can receive some quantity Xij only when the warehouse is opened, otherwise it cannot receive. So, as far as every warehouse is concerned, whatever it receives Xij summed over I, whatever it receives, one way is to write it as should be less than or equal to big M into Rj. So, Rj is 1 only when there is a warehouse that is opened here. So, only when a warehouse is opened it can receive something. If the warehouse is not opened, then this Rj will be 0, big M is large and positive, therefore, it cannot receive anything. If this warehouse is opened, then whatever it can receive right now an infinite amount of quantity, but if there is a capacity with respect to this which is okay. Now, I had defined here, now Rj is a variable. Now, let me write it Rj equal to 1 if warehouse j is opened, and let Sj be the capacity of warehouse j. So, one other way is to say that instead of saying big M, so whatever it receives should be less than or equal to Sj Rj. Rj is the variable, Sj is a known capacity that it is there. Now, similarly, whatever leaves this warehouse can leave only from a warehouse that is opened. So, sigma Yjk summed over k should also be less than or equal to Sj into Rj. Now, whatever leaves it can leave only from a opened warehouse, and whatever leaves should be within the capacity of the warehouse. So, Yjk summed over all k. So, whatever leaves from a chosen warehouse should be less than or equal to the capacity of the warehouse, and whatever reaches the customer. So, sigma Yjk summed over j should be greater than or equal to dk, should be greater than or equal to the demand of the customer. Now, we will have Zi Rj as binary and Xij and Yjk greater than or equal to 0, which represent the transportation quantities. So, this is a generic formulation of a multi facility or a multi level location allocation problem, where we consider 3 levels here in the production distribution network, and we say 2 stage, this is one stage, this part is another stage, or essentially there are 3 levels and 2 sets of interactions between the factory and the warehouse and between warehouse and the retailer. Now, one can expand it by including one more level in between, which could be factories, warehouses separately, distribution centers as well as retailer, and the location will be restricted to factories, warehouses and distribution centers. So, depending on how many levels are there in the supply chain, the formulation can get bigger and bigger. Right now, the formulation talks about only one item or a single item that is being transported. So, dk is defined only as demand at customer k or at retailer k, which is for a single item or an equivalent item. Then we can add number of items into it, and this demand will now have a second dimension, which is at customer k for a particular item L, in which case the production capacities will now have to be defined for producing each of the items. It will not be Ci, it will be CIL. Then we could also have time as another dimension, where the demand can be given for various time periods. So, D will now become DKLM, demand at customer site k for item L in time period M, in which case the capacities may be defined as different for different time periods, but same capacity for each time period, but for different items. So, this would have one more subscript that comes in. Now, these capacities, which are our SJs, now can also be defined item wise or can be kept as a generic upper limit on the capacity of the warehouse. Sometimes the item capacities come into the picture if different items are of different sizes, or if different items and products require some kind of a specialized either equipment or infrastructure to be preserved and kept, in which case the capacity will now become item specific in addition to the capacity in the place. So, there will be one more dimension that would come in. So, as we add the number of dimensions, the problem becomes far more bigger and complicated in terms of number of variables and in terms of number of constraints. Right now, the costs are the cost of location and the cost of distribution. Sometimes when we consider multi-period problems, we could even look at cost of holding inventory and cost of not meeting the demand in that period. So, we could add terms that are for inventory cost as well as shortage or back order cost if we consider multiple time periods in this formulation. So, the formulation can become extremely big and large, which would become a little difficult to solve, particularly when we are considering a large number of facilities, we are considering multiple items and we are considering multiple periods. So, in such cases getting the optimum solution can be a bit difficult, and people would resort to using heuristic solutions to solve this problem. Nevertheless, this is the broad framework with which we formulate and solve location allocation problems or fixed charge problems in the context of the supply chain. We now move on to the next part, which is about the layout. Now, so far in location, we always spoke about where to locate a facility. Location decisions are one of the most important decisions for the success of any organization. Where does one locate the factories? Where does one locate the central distribution points, etc., are strategic decisions which actually dictate the success of the supply chain in manufacturing. Now, from location we move to layout. Layout talks always about relative location of facilities. So, the word relative is very important when it comes to layout. So, layout is relative location of facilities inside a chosen plant or location. Essentially, it is like we have decided to locate a factory somewhere. Now, within that certain departments have to be located. So, layout normally talks about location of facilities or departments within a chosen plant. So, there could be 4 or 5 departments, and how does one relatively locate these 4 or 5 things inside? Now, why does a question of relative location come into the picture? Now, if for example, we have 4 departments that have to be located within a certain place or within a certain factory, and suppose we locate department 1 here, department 2 here, department 3 here and department 4 here. Now, there are 4 places where these 4 departments can be located. Now, this is called location 1 or is usually called site 1, site 2, site 3, site 4. So, in this example we are talking about locating department 1 in site 1, department 2 in site 2, department 3 in site 3, department 4 in site 4. We could have another situation where department 1 is located in site 4, department 2 is located in site 3, department 3 is located in site 2, department 4 is located in site 1. This is another possibility. Now, why are we concentrating so much on the relative location? The reason is within this is let us say the overall facility and 4 departments are located. What we assume in all layout problems is that there will be a material movement among the departments. So, let us call some W I j as the amount of material movement from department I to j, and this material moves within various places. Now, there is also a distance between sites K and L, which we call as DKL. So, if we have this kind of a layout, then the total material movement will be, this is usually given in tons, this is in kilometers, or this is a weight measure, this is a distance measure. So, the material movement has a unit of ton kilometer or weight into distance measure. So, if we have this kind of a layout, then the total material movement will be W12 from 1 to 2 there is a material movement into D12, W12 into D34, because department 1 is located in site 4, department 2 is located in site 3. So, W12 amount of material moves from 1 to 2 and moves a distance of D43, from 4 to 3 it moves. We will assume by symmetry that D43 is the same as D34. Similarly, whatever moves from 2 to 1 will also move the distance d34. So, we will have W21 into d34. Now, between 1 and 3 there is going to be a W13 d24 plus W31 d24 moves from here and whatever moves from here. Similarly, W14 d14 plus W41 d14. This is the interaction between these two. Now, the interaction between these two will be W23 d23 plus W32 d23, the interaction between these two. The interaction between these two will be W24 d24 plus W42 d24, and lastly the interaction here will be W34 d12 plus W43 d12. But if on the other hand we do not follow this layout, but instead we follow some other layout like this, where say 1 goes to 1, 2 goes to 2, 3 goes to 3 and 4 goes to 4. This is site 1, site 2, site 3, site 4. Then the weight into distance 10 kilometer measure will become W12 d12 plus W21 d12, W13 d13, W31 d13, W14 d14, W41 d14, W23 d23, W32 d23, W24 d24, W42 d24, W34 d34, W43 d34. So, if we follow this layout, this is the total 10 kilometer. If we follow this layout, this is the total 10 kilometer. Now, whichever is cheaper or less costly, we would use it. So, the problem of relatively locating them with respect to each other becomes significant. So, in layout we normally have two types of layout models, some of which are called qualitative layout models, and we have quantitative layout models. Now, in a typical quantitative layout model such as what we have seen, we will have a W matrix which is the material movement matrix, and then we will have a distance matrix, and then we would like to try various combinations of putting them into various sites and then evaluating the total ton kilometer or weight into distance and trying to find out which is the best. So, quantitative models concentrate on that. Qualitative models on the other hand approach the problem in a slightly different way, which we will see right now. So, if we have 4 departments, let us say we have 4 departments and they have to be placed in certain places relatively. Now, what we do in a qualitative model is we try to define a letter or an index which captures the relative importance of these facilities being located close to each other. Ordinarily, we use terms like A, E, I, O and U. Sometimes X is also used, where A means it is absolutely essential, would mean essential, I is important, O is ordinary closeness desirable, U is unimportant, and X is not at all required or extremely unimportant. Now, what we do is, there are only, let us say there are 4 facilities, departments that have to be allocated. So, what we do is, we try and create a matrix which is made up of A, E, I, O, U, and ask the experts to define how important it is to keep these 2 facilities close to each other. For example, we would have 4 departments 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, somebody might say, might fill an O here, somebody might fill an A here, somebody might fill an X here, somebody might fill an E here, somebody might fill an X here, somebody might fill an A here. So, here we are not quantifying the relative importance through the weight or material movement and the distance. Here we ask the experts to say, based on what they have seen and based on their view, as to how important it is to keep these 2 facilities close to each other. So, they would mark an A or a E or a I or a O or a U inside this matrix. Sometimes this is symmetric, sometimes it need not be symmetric. In general, it is not a wrong thing to assume that it is symmetric, but if we go purely by the Wij's, there can be situations where the direction of flow of material would be from 1 to 2 and not from 2 to 1, and therefore, they may not be symmetric, but by and large symmetry is assumed. So, if someone marks an A or a E or a I or a O or a U or a X, then out of these A is the biggest thing. So, if there is an A, you want these 2 to be very close to each other. If there is a U or an X, you do not want it to be close at all, you do not want them, you want them to be far away. Now, based on these, we could have some kind of a relative location of these departments. Now, if we look at this matrix and try and find out, there is an A between, the highest is A, there is an A between 1 and 3. Now, we might also assign some kind of areas to these 4 departments. Suppose we say that after all these departments require space, and let us say that department 1 requires 20 units of space, department 2 requires 18 units of space, department 3 requires 40 units of space, department 4 requires 30 units of space. Now, we realize that 1 and 3 there is an A. So, 1 is 20 units of space. So, we could try and have a rectangle as close to a square whose area is 20. So, we could think of a 5 by 4. So, we could have facility A here with 5 by 4 here. So, this is A with 5 by 4, and then A 1 to 3, I am sorry, this is department 1 with area 20, 5 by 4. Department 3 is the next best. So, here it is 40. So, we could think in terms of an 8 by 5 rectangle which is close to a square. So, we could think in terms of this is 5 and this is 4. So, we could have another 8 by 5 which is facility 3. So, this is 8 by 5, this is 4 by 5. Let me use a different color to show that these are facilities. So, 1 and 3. Now, there is another A between 3 and 4, which is here. So 3 and 4 has an A, so 4 requires 30. So we could think in terms of 5 into 6. So there is a 5 here. So we could think in terms of, now we could try and put, now 3 and 4 has an A. So we could think in terms of the 4 coming here, or 4 can come here, or 4 can come here. If we want this entire thing to be a very compact square or a rectangle, then we would put department number 4 somewhere here with 30. So we could have 5 into 6. So department 4 will come here. So this is department 4 with 5 and 6. Now the only one that remains is 2. So 2 has an O, E and X. So E is the next best, 2 to 3 is E. So we could think in terms of putting 2 somewhere here, 2 is 18. So 2 could be a 6 into 3, or it could be a 5 into 4 minus a small quantity. So we could think in terms of 2 coming somewhere here, because 2 to 4 is also an X, 1 to 2 is O, so we could do this. Or we could think in terms of putting 2 above here, which could also be possible, because because 2 to 3 is E, 1 to 2 is also O. So putting it above would bring 1 and 2 closer to each other. So typically one would say that this is how we could have the layout for departments 1, 2, 3 and 4. Now there is a certain amount of subjectivity in the whole thing, but there is still a certain reason and a scientific way of relatively placing them to take care of some of these. There are better versions of the algorithm that we just now described, but most qualitative algorithms are around the basic principle of trying to generate a matrix which captures how close we want the departments to be, and then essentially trying to have a layout of these which fits as close to possible as what is represented in this matrix. With regard to some of the quantitative models for layout, we will see them in the next lecture.